This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 374. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Thrilled to be here with you today, good buddy. This is going to be a fun show. Lots to talk about. I'm excited. This is going to be good. And I'm in my tiny camper in the woods today, out by Seattle, so it seems fitting. I'm looking at trees with moss out the door here and rainforesty things. It's humid, which is dumb. Seattle be less humid. I don't like that. But the rest of it, man, this is a banner day for a podcast for me.
Yeah, just be less humid, Seattle. Just be less of what you're known for around the country.
Yeah, well, only when I'm here. You can do whatever you want when I'm gone. That's just what I'm going to need from you, Seattle. I have decided, because I talked to lots of different people today in the Seattle area, and I'm like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Auburn or Issaquah or Everett or Puyallup or whatever, right? All these different towns, I put in quotes. Just so you all know, everything from Everett to Tacoma is just Seattle. That's just how it is, and that's how it is for all of us outsiders. Don't even try to explain that you're from Bellevue, okay? Nobody cares. You're just from Seattle. That's how a dude from a county with 1,500 people feels. That's how I feel about it.
It's not like the Seattle area is immune to that because, you come to Northwest Montana, to Kalispell, and people are like, oh, yeah, I'm from Evergreen or Summers or, the Smith Valley. People outside the area, they don't recognize that. You're from Kalispell. You're
from the Flathead. Just say that. It's a lot easier. Unless you're from Evergreen and you want to be like, I'm from the Norwegian ghetto, then you can say that. That's what my grandpa always called it.
Yeah, for people in the know in the Flathead Valley, Evergreen, it has a, what do you call that?
Lesser standing.
It has a reputation.
Yeah, that's where my whole family's from, is from the Norwegian ghetto, baby. So I'm not throwing stones or nothing. I'm just saying that's how it is.
That's how you know. You can smell your own.
That's how I know. Hey, I know lots of things after this week. I know that DK didn't show up. I know that Gino and Drew Lock had press conferences, and those were interesting. I listened to Pete talk a lot. That was kind of fun. What else is going on? Oh, yeah. They signed a receiver for some unknown reason, Marquise Goodwin. Makes no sense.
They need another former 49er on the team, probably. We had probably dropped under our quota. I'm like, oh, we better get another former 49er while make sure we can keep up with us.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he feels like this year's not Tony Dorsett, Philip Dorsett.
He's the other Dorsett.
Yeah, if he was Tony Dorsett, that'd be amazing.
I hope that they don't need him, because if they need him, he's D. Eskridge insurance.
Exactly.
And I want D. Eskridge to be good.
That's just it. When I saw that signing, I was like, oh, no. Is D not doing well? And you haven't heard diddly poo about D. Eskridge in OTAs or anything so far. Not one thing. I saw him as an ancillary dude in one of the videos. He accidentally got in the frame.
Wasn't Pete kind of going off on some of the young guys, though, about their conditioning? I wonder if D's in that in the doghouse there.
Well, it was mostly the rookies he was talking about, because apparently there's a sniper that sits up on the mound there at the VMAC and is just shooting people in the hammy. Everybody has a hammy.
You need your hammies.
What is going on? Does the training staff not do well with hammies?
Yeah, well, it started out with it, and see, it wasn't even a rookie that started out with the hammy issue. It was
Penny.
It was Penny.
Well, that's not surprising.
It's contagious, and Penny started it.
Is the pro-size disease back? Is that what's happening?
Gosh, I hope not, because I'm counting on Penny after hearing Chris Carson go on his media tour with USAA, which, it was awesome to talk to him with Clinton. And
I was going to say, hearing him go on that? No, you didn't hear him go on that. You were on the tour with Chris Carson. He made a stop.
Yeah. He made a stop. I was part of the tour, but I also heard, I had to go around and listen to some of the other stops on the tour as well, just to get an idea of, okay, did he say anything different in another spot? And based on his tone with me, based on his tone on the other shows with the questioning, I just have a feeling that, and hearing from Pete and his press conference and kind of using a whole lot of past tense, I am very pessimistic. I don't think he's coming back.
I think pessimistic's the wrong word because it has some sort of negative connotation. Like, it's just.
I'm the opposite of optimistic about his return then.
There we go. I think it's time for Carson to turn over a new leaf, which is a total bummer. He'd be an awesome addition to the team this year. But, man, if there's any risk to him in his future health, like, just no, dude. Just stay home. It's okay.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's going to know that better than anybody. The one thing that kind of bothers me are people telling him to retire. And it's like, dude,
no.
You let him make his choice. But obviously, I want what's best for him. But if he's able to play with whatever situation, and there was some doctor that tweeted out what it looks like with this plate in your neck, and I don't think it was a Chris Carson X-ray because that would be weird. But
there's some HIPAA things there.
I feel like there's an issue there if a doc is tweeting out Chris Carson's X-rays. But I think it was an example to show you what it looks like when you have a plate like that in your neck. And it doesn't look good, and a lot of people got freaked out. And I want to think of it as if he comes back, then he just has neck armor.
There you go. Hey, didn't Peyton Manning have robo neck when he finished up his career with Denver?
Probably.
Yeah.
Surgeries.
I'm sure it's possible. And literally, it is up to him, clearly. And you know what? If that's a risk that he's comfortable in taking and all that stuff, like, awesome. More power to you, bud.
But I didn't get the sense of I am coming. He wasn't pounding the table like I am making this comeback. He's like, I'm taking my time. Yeah, he said exactly that. I'm taking my time to get my body right.
Yeah. And the more important question about your talk with Chris Carson here is, how was Clinton after that? Was he okay? Like, did he catfish his pants like 14 times? Like, is he doing okay? I was just worried.
He's like that. You see the South Park with Randy with the monitor, and I think there's a GIF of it. That's kind of how I pictured Clinton after that interaction.
There we go. We go. Exciting though. That's cool.
Yeah, I think I needed it after falling off the wagon this past week to have a little pick me up of a talk with one of the cool athletes on the team that's actually still part of the team, because after watching some of these practices with Drew Lock throwing the football, I know the Seahawks are trying to hype him up, throwing out there some of those deep shots down the field. And it got me looking like, okay, here's a Drew Lock deep shot, whatever. I want to go see.
Whatever. I love how your reaction is whatever. That was a nice ball. Whatever.
Well, it was the good one that they posted, but his footwork was also kind of funky if you looked at that. But whatever. It was a nice throw and catch, but it made me go back and look at how Russ threw the deep ball. And it got me down a rabbit hole. And then I'm on the top 10 Russell Wilson plays of all time. After watching that, I was in a bad place. These were amazing plays, and we're not going to be watching Russell Wilson making these plays. And I still don't have the confidence that, okay, Drew Lock, maybe his ceiling is pretty good. Gino, maybe he goes out there, makes some cool plays. We're not seeing any plays that reach the level of those top 10 Russell Wilson style plays.
Well, yeah, they haven't played any games yet, so it's hard to see those plays when they haven't played yet. But
I have no confidence that they can, if the greatest play that we see from them this next year upcoming, that it would break into that top 10 highlight reel.
Well, no, Russ was a highlight player, but when you told me you'd fallen off the wagon, I decided to stage an intervention and get you some treatment.
Yeah.
And suggested that you watch the Let's Ride video that Russ and Team 3 and the Denver Broncos obviously put out of him saying his little ditties for the Jumbotron. And if that didn't make you laugh out loud and feel better about life, I don't know what to do for you.
It did. It made me feel better. I appreciate you for that because, well, I think my favorite thing from the video wasn't just the 4 or 5 different takes of him saying Broncos country, let's ride.
Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride.
Yeah, you had all the different kinds of emphases. Emphasize?
Emphasize?
The part of it was it wasn't him going through all of the different readings. It was the production assistant that said, one more time, Broncos country, let's ride. Like, he needed the cue of, it wasn't just one more time and go Russ. It was one more time, Broncos country, let's ride. Like, another cue of the exact wording. Even though it's only 4 words, she felt the need to cue Russ on those exact 4 words.
Well, when you invent a catchphrase out of the blue for like no reason except for attention in the media, like, let's ride. Since it's so new, maybe you need reminding that that's the nonsense that you came up with. And then on top of all of that, ended up cursing you. This feels like another brain worm of the let's ride curse, like seeping in. And I've decided, I don't know that it's so much that the Broncos are cursed. I think it might just be that Russ is cursed because he's the one who made it up.
You know, if he were the one that made it up, though, I don't know if he would need prompting. But on the other hand, we didn't get the entire video. Do you think that maybe what led to that cue was he accidentally slipped in a Go Hawks? Because he's been saying Go Hawks for years. He was even in an award ceremony recognizing the fact that he's going to say Go Hawks for life. Do you think he actually dropped one while in uniform in that recording session, and that brought upon the cue of Broncos country, let's ride from the production assistant there?
Broncos country, Go Hawks.
No.
Yeah.
Cut.
Wait,
cut that
no,
out.
Russ.
Don't put that out on Twitter. One more time, Russ. Broncos country, let's ride.
Right. Let's ride. That's the nonsense I came up with.
I want the deleted footage from that shoot.
Yeah, there's got to be a Zapruder film of this somewhere.
I do think that we are starting to see more of the let's ride curse in action, though.
Oh, and then on top of all that, then you get the nuts and bolts of the let's ride curse starting to befall the Broncos as super agent douchebag Mark Rodgers let the Broncos know that Russ is going to require at least $50 million a year, and that's the discount price they do it now.
At what, 5 years? Looking for an Alex Rodriguez style contract, although it's only 5 years instead of 10, like it was when A-Rod signed his deal all those years ago. Yeah, 5 years, $250 million. That's what we're looking at right now.
It's so hilarious to listen to Broncos fans be apoplectic about, well, I thought when he got here, it'd be just so much better that he would give us a discount. I mean, Russ is definitely going to give us a hometown discount now, right? Right?
Uh-huh.
No, absolutely not. He wants to own an NFL team. He's getting the bag every time he can. And I actually just had a conversation with Bronco Jared about 10 minutes before coming on here, and ended a text conversation earlier. And he's like, I don't want to pay him $50 million a year. Nope, absolutely not. I'd let him walk.
Oh, really?
I was like, yeah. And honestly, it's probably the better move even after you give up all that draft capital and 3 players.
If you're the Broncos and you're going to let him walk, you make him play out his final 2 years of his deal. Look, they should do what the Seahawks should have done. Make him play out the final 2 years of his deal, franchise tag him if he's still playing well in that third after the 2 years of his actual contract expires, and then allow him to walk. But that's not going to happen.
He plays out this year, and they're like, yeah, you're going to play out that one, and then at the next one, and we're going to franchise tag you the following year, and probably the following year after that. Tell me you don't think that super douchebag agent Mark Rodgers is going to be on the radio like 30 seconds after that going, well, Russ doesn't want to be traded, but if he were to be traded, these are the 5 teams he would prefer to go to.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Miami, New England, throw them out there.
I mean, if you were going to trade
Not
him,
saying he wants to be traded, but right.
It's funny. It's very funny. And it does get me fired up about the direction that the Seahawks are going in over the next few years, because they're totally zagging, right? Like, they're not zigging, they're zagging, and they're like going at this, going, hey, NFC Championship last year, that was between 2 quarterbacks with good teams and quarterbacks that are they hover anywhere between 10 and 15, depending on how you're ranking quarterbacks for most people. Some people put Garoppolo lower than that, and that'd be fair, but you understand what I'm getting at. It's like, hey, Garoppolo's been to a Super Bowl and 2 NFC Championship games, and they don't pay him $50 million a year. And I think the Seahawks looked at that and they're like, all right, because everybody goes, well, how are the Rams doing this? Well, one, they're robbing from 2063 their cap space. in the future.
So they can pay
no
Cooper
doubt.
Kupp, so they can pay, because Cooper just got a huge pay raise. Aaron Donald just gets a huge pay raise, $30 million. And they ripped up his contract and just gave him new money. He didn't have to sign any kind of extension. I mean, I suppose you can do that when you have the face of your franchise and future Hall of Famer and the best defensive player of this century.
Yeah, I think you do it. And the thing is that as a Seahawks fan, is it not just unbelievably frustrating to see the Rams just print money as if they're the Federal Reserve?
I think we're getting a little bit of the frustration that other teams were feeling with the Seahawks after they went and they traded for Jimmy Graham and then brought on, they re-signed Michael Bennett, they re-signed Sherman, they re-signed Earl, and Bobby. And I think there were a lot of people around the league looking at the Seahawks like, where are they getting all this money to re-sign all their guys and bring in some additional free agents, guys like Jimmy Graham, and on the defensive line, they got Sheldon Richardson that 1 year too. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that's how some were feeling.
Maybe. I guess that's fine. But I do really enjoy the Seahawks zagging here and being like, look, this idea of you have to pay a quarterback $1 zillion, take up a crap ton of your cap space. It just neuters you. So we're going to go a different way. We're going to invest in our team and either draft a guy or find a guy through trade, like they did with Drew, or a different guy whatever it is.
If there were only a middling quarterback out there and available that maybe a team decided they didn't have a need for, maybe if that quarterback was out there, the Seahawks could manage to get him somehow.
Well, it's clearly not happening this year. Why would you do it this year?
Why would you want to be competitive this year?
Next year's draft, and you've got a crap ton of draft capital.
Sure.
And what's been said to be a really good quarterback class coming out this next year. I mean, we'll see, but
last year's quarterback class was said to be a good one as well. And
no, it wasn't. There
were 5 quarterbacks that went in the top 15
last year. Oh, not this year, but the previous year. Yeah.
Last year.
Right. And I think Justin Fields is probably going to be good. I think Zach Wilson's probably going to be good. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be good. I mean, there's the 3 of those 5 right there. The Niners drafted Trey Lance. I was like, oops.
And Mac will be an okay player.
Oh, and Mac. Yeah. And Mac is going to be number 13 quarterback in the league for probably a while. So, yeah, it's interesting. And you don't have to pay the guy.
There's just so much that can go into one, making sure that you actually get a guy and then getting the right guy. I would rather have a middling guy that you can plug in the meantime. Well, shoot, I guess maybe they find out that Tannehill becomes available next year, and that's the guy that you can slip in. He's a middling guy too.
Don't you slip in the Tannehill on me. Don't you do it.
Perfect with Pete Carroll. I'll keep saying it.
Negative, Ghost Rider. Absolutely not. No. But I will say, if you're going to go that route and you're going to build your team this way, then you have to keep your superstar playmakers that make a middling quarterback look better than he is, a.k.a. DK. And he's holding out, wants his deal. I've got a theory on this that's like super tinfoil hat that I'll run by here in a sec. But
because wasn't this deal supposedly close to being done? I thought
probably still is.
It may still be close to getting done, although Cooper Kupp had to go in and get his deal in, and I'm sure DK looks at that and says, "Well, he was the Super Bowl MVP, but look at that dude, and look at me. I'm awesome compared to Cooper."
Look, if you want to be pissed about the wide receiver market right now, don't blame Cooper Kupp. You need to blame
Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk. I was going to say Isabella, but it wasn't Isabella. It was Christian Kirk going to the Jags for $70,000 million, whatever it was.
I think it was 18 million, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your theory here? Or are we saving it? Is this second half of show material because it's so tinfoily?
No, it's not that good. But this is my half-baked theory on this. I think that they are close to the deal. And I think John sat down with DK and was like, look, we don't want to trade you or anything like that, but obviously we're rebuilding and everything. We'll give you the money, but why don't you hold out, even though you can't do anything because your foot's still healing and all that. And when you hold out, Then my phone is going to ring and get a bunch of offers. And let's just see if I get blown away by something. Like something that's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then we get you to more of a contender this year. You still get your money. And then, we get a whole haul of assets. If that phone call doesn't come and it's not a huge deal, yeah, no worries. We'll keep you here, man. What do you think? And if DK is a good businessman, he's like, yeah, man, that sounds pretty good. Because somebody trades for you, they're going to give you the bag.
I think it would be a mistake to try and trade him now, though. If you're going to trade him, you trade him before the draft when you know what picks you're getting.
But why would you trade him before this draft? You just wouldn't do it.
No, you trade him.
Well, the quarterback
before
year.
This draft, before any draft, you trade him before a draft when you know what picks you're getting. If you trade him, pick a team. You're trading him to the Jaguars. You don't know what picks you're getting. You think it's probably going to be a low one, but you don't know. So it makes so little sense to me to trade him in the offseason when you get a first round pick, but it's anywhere in the range from number 1 to number 32.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Your pick's probably going to be pretty good next year. The Broncos pick is probably going to be a middle of the pack pick, somewhere around 12, 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there.
Top 10.
And
top 10 pick.
It could be. It very well could be. I know people are like, oh, you're just a bitter Seahawks fan. That's blasphemy, blah, 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 blah. Just talking to Bronco Jared 10 minutes ago, I was like, what do you think? He's like, if we have a 10-win year, that is a massive win for us. He thinks they're going to be closer to the 500 level, even though that's impossible now. But I was like, yeah, I kind of see you guys as a 7-win team. So you get those two, and then you trade them to another team that's likely not to be good, and you pick up another 2 firsts, and now you've got all the ammo in the world to get any guy you want. You can go to number 1 if you want and take a quarterback. No, I wouldn't do that. This is my tinfoil hat talking as to why he's not there, because I don't think there's any animosity, and I think they're fine paying him. And wouldn't you want to pay him this year rather than further down the road as the cap goes up and the next mega deal comes out?
Yeah, I don't understand the thought process of waiting to resign him, because I have seen some of that thrown around. Like, well, just wait and see what he does this season, because maybe he goes out there and with either Drew or Geno at quarterback, he doesn't get his numbers, and then he can come in under the amount that some of these star receivers are getting, because it's going to undervalue DK Metcalf based on the season. And I just want to say to people who are thinking this way, do you think that all 31 of the other general managers in the NFL are morons that have not watched any DK Metcalf prior to this season? Like, they'll know that his output is, if he goes out and has a bad season, they'll know it's more likely because Drew or Geno is the one overthrowing him and not getting the ball to him. That's going to be the reason why. And if that does happen, you get to the end of the season and DK is going to be like, dude, if this is what I'm going to have throwing me the football every week, I'm gone. I'm going to go play with Brady, Rodgers, Stafford. Gosh, that would suck, going to see him play with Stafford, or back to Russ. He would be gone. He'd be gone. So you pay him this year.
I got 2 things on that. One, the people who are like, well, yeah, his numbers are going to go down with Geno or Drew or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Are you sure? Because his numbers went up the second Geno entered the lineup as compared to when he was playing with Russ. I mean, those are just facts. Now, does that translate to a whole season and everything? I don't know, but there is some proof that Geno might be able to utilize DK a little bit better than Russ did. That is something that is there. The second thing, maybe it's as simple as this, why they haven't re-signed him yet. Maybe they just want to see him come back from this foot surgery and run around and look like DK.
Sure.
Instead of signing him to a mega deal, and then all of a sudden, by week 10, he still hasn't played because he's had 3 setbacks.
Well, that would make a lot of sense. Although he was at the VMAC, he just wasn't running. But I think you would want to see that just to be sure.
Maybe that's as simple as it is.
That would be the most simple explanation, right?
If you're going to Occam's razor this thing.
Sure.
But one way or the other, I have very little worry about DK holding out and the deal not getting done and da-da-da-da-da. It's going to happen.
Pay your good players, Seahawks.
They do.
Which, yes, they paid Quandre Diggs, which he had one of my favorite press conference quotes from this past week. Right after he was asked about evaluating the rookies, he said this.
First of all, they need to get my snacks for the room or they're going to get fined.
Yeah.
Get my snacks.
Yeah. You better get Q snacks. You better get them right.
Catfish!
Damn it. Like, if you come back with not Reese's Pieces and you have some abomination that is lesser, like Rolos or something, Q's going to be mad.
I
wouldn't want to cross that guy.
His snacks.
When I hand him his snacks, when he tells me to go get them, I want him to look at me and then look into the bag, look back up at me and go, dope, and walk back into his room.
It's one word. It's just the one word that you need, and then you know you are not getting fined.
He's the only grown-ass man that can say that with seriousness, and I don't think less of him.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah, he says dope a lot.
We've had this discussion.
I know, but it needs to be talked about again. It's very important. It's very, very important. But that is not my favorite press conference quote from these OTA pressers.
Oh, no.
I've got another tinfoil hat idea for you here, another half-baked idea. And it came from Drew Lock's presser. This was when they were asking him about DK sticking up for him a couple times in interviews and things like that.
I texted him. I kind of stay off Twitter and social media a little bit, but I texted him saying, I appreciate you having my back. What's up, guys? I let him know I appreciate it. I also told him, don't feel like you have to give in to that too much, and you can let it ride. I've been there before. I've had the slander, but it's time to put it to bed.
Yeah, I think this was after the deal was done. Drew has been taking a lot of heat on Twitter from guys maybe like me who don't think that he's going to be good with the Seahawks. Like, things are going to change from him not being good with the Broncos.
This is what I think about what he slipped in there. And I don't know if you heard it. Kind of pause for half a tick. And if you watch the video, he gets this little bit of a smirk or, a little bit of like a haha, making a joke here. He's like, I told him, don't worry about it. Let it ride.
Let's ride.
I think that was a subtle shot at the Broncos and Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was doing a little wordplay there. I think it's a little bit of an inside joke. If somebody knows Drew Lock or has his Twitter or whatever, put this question to him. I think he was doing some low-key trolling.
Let it ride.
How often do you hear somebody say, like, oh, no, don't worry about it. Just let it ride, man. Like,
I do feel like let it slide is probably the word that you usually go with.
Watch his face when he says it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you know what? You might be right.
That's my half-baked theory on that.
The thing that jumped out to me while we were talking about Drew Lock and his press conference was him talking about how he got intercepted by Ugo Amadi, and he's kind of pissed about it.
Ugo. I trained with Ugo when I was in California coming out for the draft. We watched film this week together, and I can accredit that pick today to us watching film. Yeah, we were talking about that. If you're going to play outside leverage on that, you better be careful if you flip your hips, because if you flip your hips, we're going to throw it to the sideline. And sure enough, I told him after today, I'm like, dude, no more watching film together. Like, we're done with that. Keep that is for the birds, and we are not doing that anymore.
Maybe the let it ride thing wasn't a shot, and he does just use old slang. Yeah, it's for the birds. We ain't doing that no more. But I think he had the wrong takeaway from all of this. He should have spun. He needs a spin doctor, man, because he could have spun this totally different. Yeah, not only am I out there doing my best and trying to elevate the play of the offensive players around me and everything, but I'm making our defense better too. Like I get Ugo on the side, tell him, hey, watch out, buddy. You play without inside leverage and flip your hips, dude. It's coming. He just made Ugo better. He should have taken full credit for making Ugo better.
Yeah, I guess that's how you do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess Drew doesn't strike me as a politician that way.
No. One thing that did strike me after his presser, now that he's there and comfortable and all that stuff, he's a fun interview. I enjoy listening to Drew Lock.
It's different. Yeah.
It's not a good quarterback necessarily, but I do enjoy just his kind of demeanor. He's kind of playful. It's all right.
He seems like a really cool guy to hang out with. Like that, that is for sure. The one thing that got to me though, and I don't have a clip for it, but when he was talking about not wanting to compare all of his reps with Geno, because he talked about, oh yeah, when I was with the Broncos and going through practice with Teddy, he was keeping track. Like, okay, Teddy won that one, I won this one, and he was keeping track of it that way. But then he went back and he said, I remember somebody telling me back in college, to never really compare yourself with others, to always kind of keep going.
Comparisons are the thief of joy. Yeah. Comparisons are the thief of joy.
And that really stuck with me. Wait a second. It really stuck with you through the point that when you were with the Broncos and against Teddy, you were still keeping track of that. And yet it stuck with you since college. But now you just re-remembered it and you're not going to allow it to stick with you and be competitive in that way with Geno. Okay.
So he had information, didn't heed it, learned his lesson, and is now doing better about it. And you're mad?
I'm just saying it really stuck with me. Doesn't suggest like it didn't stick. So it didn't stick with you when you were competing against Teddy, but now it's stuck with you now that you're competing with Geno.
Here was the problem I had with that statement. He's like, yeah, this coach back in college, he gave me this piece of advice. Comparison is the thief of joy. Like the coach invented that phrase. Like he's like Gandhi or some crap. Like, no, dude, that phrase has been around forever, man.
See, obviously it didn't stick with me because I couldn't even remember it.
Yeah, that coach is the thief of other people's intellectual property. That's what that is.
Who do you think said that originally?
I would say somebody short, because you're always comparing yourself to taller people. Napoleon was the first dude.
I'll give you a clue. Teddy!
What? Teddy Bridgewater said that first? No, we didn't.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense because he was a very sickly child, and he had to make himself into the bull moose that got shot while giving a speech and just shook it off and finished the freaking speech.
So there you go.
Yeah. My second favorite president, Teddy Roosevelt.
After what, Abe being number one?
Nah, Thomas Jefferson.
He's my favorite too.
Yeah. Because he's on the $2 bill. That makes him awesome. No, I'm kidding. Hey, there's a lot of other stuff. There's obviously some not so great stuff, but I like the way that his brain worked in terms of founding a country.
And
he was big on egalitarianism. He was like, great. Here's a history lesson, folks. He Monticello and everything. Like he was really into the idea of being self-sustaining. And as a hermit who lives in a plywood box in the woods, it's very affirming to me. If somebody makes fun of me, I'm like, I'm basically Thomas Jefferson.
Catfish. He was also the best character in Hamilton, the musical.
I'll take your word for it. I refuse to watch that after freaking Hulu decided that the Spokane version of Hamilton, that show needed to be advertised every 16 seconds across my screen with the song, I want to be in the room where it happens. The room where it happens. Like, I was so sick of that ad.
You got tired of that song.
It haunts me in my dreams still.
All right.
Yeah.
Don't tell me Lincoln is outside your top 5.
Look, man, I don't think that you can tell me how to rank my former presidents.
Okay. Washington, you could put Washington ahead of Lincoln if you want.
There's some things about Washington that you kind of have to really respect in terms of they kind of were like, yeah, so be king. And he's like, nah. And they're like, okay, can you just be president for a while? He came up with the phrase president too. He was like, nah, just call me president, because that kind of means I'm just presiding over things. Like I'm not a ruler or anything. And everybody's like, all right, fine, Mr. President. He's like, nice, that's going to stick. And then after his 4 years, he's like, that seems like enough. I'm going to set the precedent.
Seems
here.
Good. I'm done.
Yeah, that's how we're going to do it. So,
and people are like, wait a second, you can do that? No.
And he's like, I just did. So,
and that's why George Washington belongs in the top 5.
Yes. Yep. So basically what you're telling me is that your top 5 presidents must include all 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore.
It kind of feels like when you're making a Mount Rushmore of presidents that the dudes on Mount Rushmore kind of belong there.
I don't know. I think I think there's an argument to be made
Power rank them however you want.
FDR's
in fact,
up there, baby.
I think that's why we started doing Mount Rushmores of our favorite things, because it's like, well, it's really hard to rank them 1 through 4. Here's just the 4 that I like the most.
Right. So in that vein of all of the press conferences that you heard this week, is there somebody at the top of your Mount Rushmore that you enjoyed their presser more than everybody else's? That was an awesome transition. I don't want to hear nothing from nobody. That was really good.
Quandre, obviously, number 1.
Yeah, that was dope. It was good. I love listening to Quandre talk. I could do it. Every week, just put Quandre up, please.
Absolutely. He is required listening.
Yes.
And he's probably going to come away with some awesome quote, like how the rookies need to make sure that they have his snacks.
Don't tell me Geno's out of your top 3.
We might get to Geno. We'll see.
I like Geno's presser.
I'll put Quandre up there 4 times. How about that?
I don't think that's how Mount Rushmores work, but hey, man, if you're making the sculpture, it's all you. Like, you do it. Just find a mountain, start carving that. Catfish! No.
Who else did you like?
Those are the ones that kind of stuck out to me.
Okay.
I enjoyed the quarterback pressers. They both seemed to have an air of confidence. I mean, obviously they're quarterbacks and they're trying to be the starter, and that's part of the gig and all that. But it seemed to come easier to both of them, especially Geno, than I expected.
They're taking it on like they're going to be the guy, and ultimately, one of them will be, maybe.
Most likely, yes. But to go back to Baker Watch for 2 seconds for your sake,
okay,
that's totally out the window now. Yeah.
What, but you think that Watson is not going to play, and that
he's not going to play? There's no way.
I don't think there's any way Baker goes back. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome of him to be like, yeah, I'm not going back?
This is where I'm going. So think about that. Right now, his stock, he doesn't have a job, basically, right? I mean, even the Panthers are looking at him being like, nah, we're good. Like, we're fine. We don't need you right now. What better way to rebuild your stock than to be like, look, I played through injury last year for this team and played for my teammates and all that stuff. They stabbed me in the back. I took the knife out with my own bare hands. It was hard, but I've got my elbows around there. It worked out. I got it out, and I'm coming back. And that guy that they traded for, who's kind of a piece of crap, I'm going to show them what they're missing now. And come back, play well, build your draft stock, get that next big bag. That's his best chance.
That sounds like a guy that I would really want on my team. A guy who has that kind of attitude.
Exactly. Now, I don't think he's going to do it. And so, that goes back into why I don't want him on my team. But look, that would be an amazing play for him. And gosh, he could make them eat crow for an entire year. His teammates would build a statue for him during the season. They'd figure it out.
What's probably going to happen is that Watson's not going to play this year, and that's where Jimmy Garoppolo is going to end up going. Because he can't stay with the 49ers.
He's staying with the 49ers.
You think so?
They do not believe in Trey Lance.
But I feel like they have to show that they believe in him by getting rid of Jimmy.
Do you think that Kyle, the big ego man, Shanahan, is not above being like, screw it, I'll keep Jimmy. Yeah, Trey, you're the starter. Nope, we're rolling with you, I'm telling you.
Obviously, they've been able to do what they have been with Jimmy these last couple of years, so maybe.
In case of emergency, break Jimmy glass. I think that's what they're doing with that. I think who's going to be starting for the Browns the majority of the year is going to be, or all the year, is Jacoby Brissett.
I don't know how Watson gets out of this with anything less than 10 games, and it should be longer, but that's going to be something to watch.
After the latest 2 lawsuits, the 23rd and the 24th.
Yeah.
It sounds like he wasn't exactly forthcoming with the league and or the Browns. It's going to be at least a year.
Or it'll be like with Greg Hardy and they come out with a year and then it gets reduced to 8 or 10.
I don't think Greg Hardy, while a story, I bet you if you asked 8 out of 10 NFL fans right now, what was it that Greg Hardy did? They wouldn't remember.
Maybe.
If you asked 10 NFL fans 7 years from now what Deshaun Watson allegedly did to this point.
Just say allegedly 24 times.
We don't have that kind of time. And you might have to say it 66, apparently. So.
Well, that was the number of confirmed. But I think some of those confirmed ones were the women who wrote letters in support of him.
I'm just saying 66 massage therapists in 17 months. Come on, bro.
Dude, the dude has a fetish. I don't think, like, at the very least, you have to concede that dude has a fetish.
I would hope that you would, at the very least, concede that. Yes. Without question. There's no doubt about that. And that he lied.
And you have to concede that actually, out of those 66 times, he at least got what he wanted 3 times out of the deal as to what has been admitted. Actually, as to what his lawyer has admitted. As
a consensual encounter?
Yes.
And then potentially over a third of them, he got what he wanted to a degree, but without the consent.
Or tried, yeah.
But at the end of the day, every Seahawks fan everywhere has to be relieved, right? That didn't happen at this point.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't want to be going through what Browns fans are going through.
Like, that poor fan base, man. It's been so brutal for them for so long.
But, okay, so the Browns offseason, that being considered, when you hear from Bill Barnwell then that the Seahawks had the NFL's worst offseason, don't mind the Browns, what Browns fans are going through. Don't mind Washington and the Commanders and what that franchise is going through. Mm-hmm. No, losing Russell Wilson in a trade, getting back 3 players and 5 draft picks, 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders. That was enough to make the Seahawks have the worst NFL offseason, according to Bill Barnwell.
Right. Who clearly doesn't pay attention, apparently. And my favorite part about that was he said something along the lines of, and they have no plan at quarterback. No plan at quarterback.
Yeah, let me read what Barnwell said. He said, "What went wrong? You've probably heard about the Russell Wilson trade by now. 1 week after Pete Carroll publicly said that the Seahawks had, quote unquote, no intention of trading Wilson, the Seahawks sent their franchise quarterback to the Broncos for Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, Noah Fant, and 5 draft picks. I wrote at length about this deal at the time, and I don't like it for Seattle. The Seahawks simply didn't get enough for a superstar in the prime of his career. And while I held out some hope that they would go after a viable replacement under center, they're about to head into 2022 with Locke and Geno Smith as their 2 quarterbacks. They went from having a true superstar under center to having 2 replacement-level veterans and no clear path toward the next franchise passer. That's a disaster. No clear path!
Yeah, what's a disaster? What's a disaster is that last sentence, no clear path. Yeah, I just have a boatload of draft capital to go after a quarterback in next year's draft, which is supposedly loaded with quarterbacks. No clear path. Like, who could fathom they would draft a quarterback next year? Like, it's impossible.
With all those draft picks, why? Yeah, I don't see a clear path toward them drafting a future quarterback with 4 picks in the top 60.
Nope, no clear path.
Can't happen.
Dumb article.
It was dumb.
If you don't think the Browns had the worst offseason, then you're drifting, dude.
The inverse was that the Broncos had the best because obviously they got Russell Wilson.
I get it.
I mean, it makes sense. That if you're going to put the Seahawks at the bottom.
It was the blockbuster deal of the offseason.
Yeah. The team that was second was weird to me. Because with that considered, if you're going to put the weight of the quarterback situation.
Wouldn't it be the Colts then?
You would maybe think that with Matt Ryan that would. What were the Colts? I have to pull up the article because I honestly don't even know if the Colts, where they ranked out. Type in I got an ESPN Plus account because I subscribe to Disney Plus. I don't know if I told you that, but it's kind of handy for these paywall articles for the show sometimes. I know.
And in your expert paywall opinion right now,
yeah,
worth it?
I can watch Hamilton on Disney Plus. I got the new Obi-Wan in the queue there. I haven't started it yet. But just for the Disney Plus, the ESPN Plus stuff is a bonus side point to the Disney stuff for me.
With the Disney Plus, sounds like you're in the room where it happens.
I also watched the new Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie, and it is great.
It can't be.
It's really good.
I had no idea anybody on this planet was still interested in Chip and Dale.
I think that from the nostalgia,
I'd forgotten they had existed.
Yeah, I think you would get a kick out of it. Maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I poo-pooed. Yeah, let's try that again. I poo-pooed you in the past on show recommendations and gone back. The two most prominent of late was Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I thought I would hate because Andy Samberg usually annoys me. It was great. Loved it. I did really enjoy it. And then Ted Lasso. I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't care about soccer. And it's great. I've only watched the season so far, but yes.
Okay, well, here's the tie-in. Andy Samberg is the voice of Dale.
Really? He seems Dale-y.
It's good. Check it out.
Is Snoop the voice of Chip?
I don't think so.
Oh, that's disappointing. I thought maybe they would tie into that Corona commercial, which is fantastic, by the way.
Indianapolis Colts. Number 13 on Bill Barnwell's list, despite them getting quarterback Matt Ryan.
Okay. So number 2 would be the Raiders? The Chargers?
The Chargers, that was close. The Chargers are at number 3. But the Raiders, the Raiders are at number 28. How are the Raiders at 28?
Is he counting all the Gruden stuff from last year as being a part of this offseason?
The Raiders made a lot of moves. They got Devontae Adams. They got Josh McDaniels as their head coach.
Mm-hmm.
They got Chandler Jones, the Russell Wilson sack machine.
That's exactly right. That's a great move for them.
They re-signed Max Crosby, who is an outstanding pass rusher. And, I guess they extended Derek Carr.
Which was a great move for them.
Okay.
They're not even paying him like crazy money. He's Stafford good.
Okay. So what I have to go to the section because he labels it what went right, what went wrong, and what they could have done differently. What went wrong? Adams is a great player, but the combination of his aging curve, the Raiders' needs elsewhere on the roster, the move away from Aaron Rodgers, and the surplus value in trading 2 valuable picks to the Packers gives me pause. Okay. Not sure I love the Jones.
What do you mean? Why is it their problem that there's a move away from Aaron Rodgers for Devontae Adams?
I think maybe because they just think that he'll not be as good without Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball.
Oh, so the quarterback that made him good enough in college to be a sought after NFL prospect, he probably can't play with him.
Well, here you go. He doesn't love the Jones deal. He's not a Chandler Jones fan. He's on Team Adam with regard to Chandler Jones.
I get it. If he went to any other team than an AFC West team, I would have been like, that's a terrible signing.
He had 5 sacks in the Week 1 win over the Titans, but he racked up only 5.5 sacks over the rest of the season.
Against Russell Wilson.
And 4 of those 5 were against Russell Wilson.
There you go.
I don't know if that's true, but it feels true.
It sure feels that way. Absolutely.
And they didn't address their secondary enough, according to Barnwell.
That's fine, but 28?
28. That is wild. No, number 2, the Philadelphia freaking Eagles.
I have no words. And for a number of different reasons. I think that is one of the most overrated rosters in all the NFL.
Everybody talks about it, how the Eagles have such a great roster going into the season. They're the favorites for the NFC East because they have such a great roster.
I just don't see it. They don't have a quarterback.
I know. That's what makes it hard to believe.
Well, they do. They just don't play their best. The only one that's an actual quarterback.
Yeah. The write-up was the thing. Now, see, contrast the Seahawks and think about what happened with them this offseason and kind of compare it with where the where the Philadelphia Eagles are going into the season. Because he said, what went right? Blessed with cap space and draft assets after trading Carson Wentz and moving down in the 2021 draft, general manager Howie Roseman showed off this offseason. They signed edge rusher Hassan Reddick to a 3-year, $45 million contract, another overrated pass rush from the Cardinals.
Big pile meh.
Brought back Derek Barnett on a reasonable deal.
Meh.
And convinced Fletcher Cox to take a pay cut.
Old now. He used to be awesome. Now he's slightly above meh.
Well, yeah, he could accept a pay cut because he's not going to get more from going to another team at this point.
Right. And then they traded for A.J. Brown, who's a hell of a receiver. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have anybody to get him the ball.
Yeah. He does. He mentions the 1-2 punch that they have with Brown and Devonta Smith now. Ooh, they even landed draft faller Nakobe Dean in the 3rd round, which was good value, even given the concerns about Dean's medical report. So now Barnwell's a medical expert with regard to guys falling in the draft.
Now he's one of those guys that obsesses over value in the draft. That's one of the more overrated things in draft analysis is your value.
I remember when it was such great value that the Seahawks got Jesse Williams from Alabama all the way in the 5th round. He was a 1st round talent, and they got him in the 5th round, and then he never played in the NFL.
If you just ignore his medicals, he played for like a game or two or something like that.
He had an okay couple games in the preseason, I think.
He played a little bit his rookie year, like for a game or two.
Right.
Yeah. Nice dude. All that, like nothing against Jesse Williams. It's just, it's just anybody with a YOLO neck tattoo is like, he's probably a fun dude. But yeah, I just, great value. Hooray.
He gives the Eagles credit for extracting a 2023 1st rounder from the Saints for moving down from number 19 to number 101 in the 2022 draft. So essentially they just punted their draft pick to next year, which only works out if they get better than number 19 from the Saints next year.
And what, they got an extra 4th out of the thing or whatever it was?
Yeah. Number 101 overall.
Yeah. Get out your party kazoo. Bzoo, hooray. Number two.
As it stands, the Eagles addressed significant weaknesses at cornerback and receiver. They pushed one of their 1st round picks into the future and opened up the possibility of a more valuable 1st rounder, giving them more flexibility if they want to do something aggressive at quarterback next offseason.
Yeah.
Jason Kelce came back for another year. Outside of not using their top picks to land a quarterback such as Russell Wilson, it's difficult to poke many holes in what they did this offseason. So apart from addressing their huge need at quarterback, they had a great offseason.
If you're thinking about this roster, everybody's like, it's such a great roster. Do they have more than 3 stars?
A.J. Brown, you could consider a star.
There you go. Maybe Goddard. He's real good.
Yeah.
And then what?
Fletcher Cox, but kind of on the downhill from being a star.
Absolutely.
Darius Slay? I like Darius Slay.
He's a very good corner, but I don't consider him a star.
They have a good roster. You know what? The Eagles should trade for Baker Mayfield and have the other OU quarterback. I bet they'd make the playoffs with Baker.
I think that would be a really good trade for them. He'd have to beat out Minshew, though.
He'd beat out Minshew. Come on.
Are we sure?
What would those two be like in the locker room together? Could you have that much awesome?
That would be a lot of fun. I don't dislike Baker, the dude. I think he's a fine guy.
Yeah.
I really don't. I just don't think he's that talented of a player.
I would agree. He's kind of in the middle. That's why he's the best of the bad options that are out there. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that if the Seahawks get him, that they're going to win a Super Bowl. I think he's the best of the bad options. And I'm even counting drafting a quarterback next year as that. It's not going to work out 100%.
Drafting a quarterback next year?
It doesn't always work out. It's not a guarantee of
it doesn't.
Being good.
No, you're 100% right. But you have a pretty decent shot. They just need to call me.
I'd love to give credit to John Schneider for maybe wanting to draft Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. But John Schneider's track record of drafting quarterbacks is like 1 for 2.
It's a small sample size, so it's hard to crush him on it.
Well, except for the fact that, he could have drafted other quarterbacks, I don't know, as early as the 5th round at least once.
Oh, I will tell you. Super douchebag agent Mark Rogers and Russell Wilson got their panties in a twist when they so much as went to Josh Allen's pro day just to go.
I know.
And yeah, he couldn't dare draft another quarterback without, pissing off team 3. If I would have been John, though, I'd have looked at Russ and been like, give your balls a tug and just relax, okay?
Go beat out a 4th round quarterback, Russ.
Yeah. Jeez Louise.
But they could have drafted one in the 5th or 6th round this year.
Yeah, I mean, they could have. I just don't see any of those guys as being super viable. I mean, maybe Carson Strong, maybe.
I just wanted John Schneider to go out and find somebody who could beat out Jacob Eason in the preseason. That's all.
Who cares?
It would make me feel better about him being able to pick up a guy who could stick with the team for a little while.
All right, fine. Well, how about next year he does that for you? By picking our super stud quarterback for the next 10 years.
Even better. You know what? I've got more John Schneider, but why don't we get to it in the second half of the show?
Beauty.
Getting into the second half of the show, and I still have this pulled up from when we had our conversation about the Eagles because you asked who their stars are. And sometimes I like to judge this just by Googling a team name because you end up having, or I used Eagles roster as my search term.
Okay.
And then you get pictures of all the players.
The little thumbnails.
Yeah. Across the top. Jalen Hurts makes sense. He's the quarterback. A.J. Brown makes sense. Devonta Smith. Yeah, good receiver that they drafted last year. And their next 2 best dudes are guys who got drafted this year, Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis.
There you go.
And they have more guys who, okay, so those 2 guys, obviously not in an Eagles uniform because they have never suited up for the Eagles yet, other than in practice now. Hassan Reddick, who hasn't suited up for the Eagles. James Bradbury, who hasn't suited up for the Eagles, who's actually still in his Panthers uniform in this picture. And Zach Pascal. They have Zach Pascal. Do you even know what position Pascal plays? They have him listed before Fletcher Cox.
He plays left Pascal. I don't know. I don't know what he plays.
He was a receiver for the Colts.
Okay.
This is my other favorite thing to do with players. And if you search their name and you look at the questions people ask, and the first question,
you put in Sanders for the Eagles, and the first question is Sanders any good?
Right. This one, people also ask, what happened, Zach Pascal?
That one's gold.
It's perfect. What happened?
What happened? Oh no, Zach Pascal, what happened?
A Seahawks legend has retired. That's what happened this past week.
Oh yeah?
BJ Finney retired from the NFL.
Damn. Like the all-time record holder of the highest swamp ass score of all time.
All-time saw score.
He's gone.
That record's never coming down.
Yeah. I think that might be an all-timer.
There's certain records that you can point to with the Seahawks. Largent, over 100 receiving touchdowns, the 5 touchdowns in one game by Sean Alexander, rushing. Was that even in one half?
His single season rushing total, sure.
Yeah.
Or TD total, yeah.
And BJ Finney's saw score. Those are just all records that are never coming down.
All-timers.
Other Seahawks news, Shelby Harris, he had his contract restructured, which gives the Seahawks $3 million in cap savings. They didn't really need it, though. They had $10 million in cap space. Now they have 13.5.
And everybody immediately said it's to get Baker.
To me, it would mean more of a signal that they're really close to being done with DK.
Exactly.
It was Baker Breadman, I think, on Twitter that insinuated that it was for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, him and every other pundit on YouTube and TV and their dogs and their dog food delivery men.
Yeah.
Which I guess is just FedEx guys, right?
That's
when you order dog food online. Is that how that works?
Let's see. Does mine come
I got to
UPS?
figure it out, though, because we got a dog.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow. What kind of dog did you get?
I know.
Did you get a Connie Corso like Chris Carson likes?
What is Chris Carson like?
Connie Corsos.
I didn't even know that was a breed.
They're Italian Mastiffs.
Oh, okay. That wouldn't have been a terrible choice for us, actually.
No, they look really cool.
I'm sure they are. No, we're hoping to start to do like some small livestock on the homestead, and so we need a guardian dog. And I haven't had a dog in 15 plus years. In being on the road like I have been, like that wasn't an option. I couldn't have a dog. And it just felt like time. And we live in doggy paradise. I mean, that's the best place ever to be a dog.
For sure.
So, yeah. So we got a Pyrenees Border Collie cross. His name is Oliver, a.k.a. Ollie. And he's an awesome little dog. He's very smart. He's highly trainable. He's already starting to do his patrols. And he looks like a walking freaking cotton ball. And Brittany's in love.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so just some itching problems because he came off a dairy farm near Tri-Cities. So he had a little mange, a little fleas, a little mites, a little everything.
Yeah.
So he's pretty itchy, but he's getting over that now. And yeah, well, he's been a nice addition. It's been fun.
A new addition to the Emmert household.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't got to train a dog in a long time. And it was something I didn't know that I had missed as much as I had. Because back in the day when I was with the ex-wife, she was like high up at the Humane Society, and they would send litters of puppies home with me specifically all the time to socialize them and build their confidence and like give them just some of the basics. And I was good at it. And so it's been fun.
Well, it was fun listening to some people speculate about one of the clips that came out of the John Schneider podcast with Thomas Dimitrov. The former Falcons general manager has a podcast, and they must have done this interview maybe last summer because John Schneider was just talking about the 2021 draft and coming out of that. But there was one quote in particular that got people speculating and even generated some, just maybe some questions about the philosophy or whether he really learned his lesson from this moment that he talked about.
When you do have those misses, whether they're acquisition misses or whether they're decisions made within the organization that were, mainly your decisions, yours and Pete's, of course, because just like Dan and I and Smitty and I, we claimed every big decision that they were both of ours.
Right.
So what is your stance on that?
No, it's cool because I'm very transparent. For instance, like in our draft meetings, when we're going through everybody, we'll be watching film and I'll be looking at stuff and I'll be like looking at my notes and I'm like, geez, and then I'm like looking at our grades and I'm like, I'll have like a really high grade on a guy and everybody can see the grades on the screen, right? So, I'm kind of like, wait a second. I'm looking at stuff and I'm looking at we're watching or studying this guy and I'm like, was I watching the wrong guy or something? Yes. So I always joke with those guys like, well, that must have been a hell of a day for me when I was at Madison.
Coming out. I love that. No, I love that.
So I'm like, I don't. Yeah. And that puts everybody else at ease because, like I said, we don't feel like we have all the answers until, we lock that door for the draft. And then from, like the bigger trades we've made, we traded for an individual and made him the highest paid player on our team. And I would never, ever do that again. Just didn't know it philosophically at the time what we were doing. I mean, we knew we were doing, but not. We should have known better.
Now, when it comes to trading for a guy and making him the highest paid player, it doesn't take a lot of detective work to figure out that it's Percy Harvin, because that was the one guy that they traded for and then immediately paid him, which more than anybody else on the team. And at that time, You go back, they had signed Sidney Rice, so he was on a big time deal. And guys like Doug Baldwin were on the team, Golden Tate, drafted by the Seahawks in 2010. I think that put a ton of pressure, or not a ton of pressure on him, but it brought up a lot of consternation among those guys that here a guy was coming into the team unproven within the team and all of a sudden making more than anybody else. And I can see why he would look back at that and say that that was a mistake. Obviously, that didn't work out.
And so where are people coming up with the idea that he didn't learn his lesson?
I think with Jamal, they say that because they made the big trade for Jamal and then they made him one of the highest. Because originally, even when the quote came out, there was some speculation of, oh, did he mean Jamal in that situation? But no, Jamal came to the team and he played for a whole year before they ended up giving him a contract.
100%. Yeah, he was definitely talking about Percy. And at the end of the day, too, as Seahawks fans, if you could get your Wayback Machine, get that however many gigawatts you need to get the DeLorean going and go back in time to the time of the Percy Harvin trade. If you would tell me you weren't fired up about that trade, you're probably a liar.
You were fired up about the Percy Harvin trade. You were fired up about the Jimmy Graham trade.
Yep.
Although, I mean, there were some people that thought that the Jimmy Graham trade wasn't a great move, but yeah. Generally, you're fired up about it.
Yeah. 95% of the fan base was like, hell yeah. Yeah, that guy's a baller. Absolutely. Let's do this. I mean, Percy felt like the piece that was going to put us over the top. And while not necessarily the piece that put us over the top, he had the iconic run back in the Super Bowl. Still worth it.
It was still worth it.
To watch Jared's face when that happened was worth everything.
Yeah, and still, they have learned their lesson from it, because that's the exact reason why I think that Jamal Adams didn't get paid right away. Because if he hadn't learned his lesson from it, they would have signed Jamal Adams to a deal that maybe would have been bigger than what Bobby Wagner was making, and he would have been the highest paid player on the defense.
Yeah. So, okay, then. If that needs to be a controversy in your mind, then have at it, Twitter people.
Yeah, I don't know if it was necessarily a controversy, but I think it became a discussion point of, did he really learn? And you could say that I would have to expect that he learned something even from making the Jamal Adams deal.
Oh, for sure.
There were some other quotes. I'm gonna save one. I clipped a few, but I'm gonna save one for later.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, if you want to become a member of our flock, you could be one of our executive producers like DCH, Dustin Monk, Brian Shaw, and Rebecca Christensen. No new members of the flock this week, but if you want to, you can go to getintheflock.com. If you find value in listening to this show throughout the off season, if we make you laugh, if we make you think, if you can decide on a number that comes to as the amount of value that is provided to you, you can go to getintheflock.com, select a value level that's either appropriate there. You can go to seahawkerspodcast.com/donate, I think is the link, and support us via PayPal there. I should probably be more sure of these links.
Yeah, well, as we go through the rest of this offseason and then figure out what we need to do to try to increase the revenue so that I can get off the road and hang out with little Ollie a little bit more, then yeah, we'll be a little more diligent about that. But you need a spin doctor too. You and Drew Lock are terrible at spinning things.
Oh, yeah?
If you want to become a member of the flock, if we bring value to your life, if we make you laugh, wrong. When you become a member of the flock, when we make you laugh, when we give you something to think about, that's when you should figure out when to donate, quit being a freaking freeloader, and have no more weeks like this where we're skunked as I make a gargantuan effort to podcast from a tiny camper in the woods of Washington. Give me a break.
And if you don't want to support it via monetary value, I know Noah Young, if you're listening out there, if you're interested in maybe doing some more artwork, or because like Adam said, we have big plans and things that we want to do. There's the show that you're planning to do with Clinton Bonner and Wilson Kahn. That's going to be added to the rotation upcoming this year. And so, yeah, we could use some artwork for that. If we want to be doing some video, there may be some artwork and other types of opportunities there where you can provide value to us and help support us in that way. So, yeah, there's all kinds of ways.
Yeah. Somebody who's got some video editing skills would be amazing, because I'd love to, from the podcast Hobo Shack, that is half built now, I would very much like to do a video a week. Nothing huge, maybe like 15 minutes or less or something like that. But, just another thing to put up. More content. More
stuff. So,
and I could use help with the editing.
So editing for video, graphic stuff. Yeah, you can be a part of the team.
Be a part of the team and help this idiot out, because I don't know that I can figure those things out on my own.
So yes, if you want to, when you want to, you can go to getintheflock.com.
Ding! Man, you're a quick study, dude.
I'm learning.
You're a fast learner. Smart speller.
We got an email in, the game in Germany coming up for the Seahawks. And we've got Sunka from Rottenburg. I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, we got Rottenburg checking in, says, "Hey, Brandon. Hey, Adam. First of all, I love the show and love to listen to your podcast. I really enjoy the perspective you give on news and developments, but also the humor and trash talk. I'm a Seahawks fan from Germany, and man, do I look forward to the game in Munich. The opportunity to jump in a train and to see Tom Brady battle with Pete and the Seahawks is just surreal. As you know, it's not easy to visit an NFL game as a European fan. And when the news came that not only Brady was coming, but also he is playing the Seahawks, just wow. I can't wait. Although I'm certainly not a fan of Brady, it's just awesome for the European fans to see an absolute legend play.
Oh, yeah.
Let's hope we all get tickets and we can make this a home game with the Little Flockers. A trip to Munich will definitely be worth it. It's a beautiful city, the beer is good and plenty, and most importantly, the German football community is absolutely ready. Hopefully we see you in Munich at the game and have a chat. My excitement is through the roof. Keep up the good work and go Hawks. Greetings from Germany and Sunke from Rottenburg." And he says, "P.S. As preparation for your German lessons, you can try pronouncing my name." And I did. I tried.
Okay, you try. So I'm going to go with it. Go Hawks, Sunka. And I cannot wait to meet all you guys out there. I'm totally fired up for this. I don't know that it's as much as you guys are fired up, because I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm sure it's off the charts for you guys over there. I'm going to need a favor. My daughter is literally in Munich right now as we record this. I get some Instagram messages from her, so I know she's alive. There's some proof of life, and that's good. But, if you want to, track her down and make sure she's not getting into too much trouble, that'd be great. I will have some pushback on the beer, though, because I did get a picture from my 18-year-old daughter of a mug of beer with the phrase underneath of it, "I guess I don't like beer." And as I looked at it, it looked like it was lighter than Bud Light, which is made from rice and not a real beer. So I'm not sure that the beer there is great. Maybe she just got a bad one. I don't know. Maybe they thought the little American girl could hand her, like a stout or something like that. But I don't know. I'm just saying, the one point of evidence I have about the beer, I don't know.
My biggest problem with the German beer, like when remember when Costco got those, what do they call it? The little calendars where it's 24 for the 24 days of December leading up to Christmas.
Oh, it's like an advent calendar of beer?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I haven't had a Costco membership in like 10 years because I don't have a pack of young ladies that I'm trying to feed like you do. So
when I lived down in Missoula, we did the beer advent calendars, and I thought I got you one. And remember, they all tasted the exact same.
You're 100% right, 0% wrong. I totally remember that now. Yes. Although I can't say that all of them taste exactly the same, because I did let 2 freeze and they kind of burst out the front of the advent calendar.
Okay.
So maybe those were the ones. I don't know.
And yes, hopefully I got your name right. The O with the umlauts. I think it's an sound. Sunka. I think that's right. I'm going off of my German lessons from 25 years ago from when I was in high school, but I did have 3 years of German lessons. So
sounds like you nailed it.
Oh, and I do have Sven in Berlin, who is maybe on track to try and get tickets when they go on sale this coming week.
I wonder if Isabel's going to be there this week. Should I send her on a ticket buying mission?
Yeah, I think they'll probably go on sale online, but she might actually be awake because I think that based on the time difference, it might be like 2 a.m. our time or 1 a.m.
I see.
Washington time when the tickets go on sale.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
Well, whatever. I mean, if we get him then, great. If we don't and we got to go just find some German scalper, then we're doing it. I don't really care.
Hugh Derby checks in at Lloydzilla out on Twitter. Hey, guys. Like you, I have been watching the output of the Broncos and been putting up with Russ. A bit like a car crash on the road. You know, you shouldn't look, but you can't help it. The more and more I see makes it more evident why Russ was the one to leave. Pete's philosophy has always been about family and team, and the more you see of Russ and the Broncos shows that he didn't share that philosophy. It is all about him, his self-promotion, and building his brand, to the point where I genuinely would not be surprised to see a media release telling us they have renamed the franchise the Denver Ruskos.
That's better than I was coming up with, because I was just going to go with the Denver Russes. We were on the exact same page.
In any sport, no player can be bigger than the team, and hopefully we will now have a 53-man roster that is all in and embraces Pete's philosophy, and we can move on with Drew or Gino and see a team performance rather than the Russ show. I just want the season to get underway now and see what unfolds, and the Let's Ride curse in full effect. Catfish! The Lambs, Whiners, Knowles, and Ruskos, and go Hawks. Take it easy from Hugh.
Go Hawks, you. Me and Hugh are on the same exact wavelength. I love you, buddy. It's so perfectly put, because the ego part of Russ's transition to the Ruskos has been on full display.
Ruskos needs to stick. I know we've had somebody, taking credit for the For Raka coming up with that. And you should hold on.
That wasn't us.
Hugh has the trademark on the Ruskos, and it's got to stick.
100%. Yeah, that one's sticking. Good job, Hugh. That was a solid contribution. A great email.
It can be the For Racker now.
Oh,
just add the R on the end, and you got the.
Yeah, and that feels a little better. For Racker.
For Racker.
Yeah.
There we go.
I don't know. It's more of a word. You know what I mean? Yeah.
On to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week is for the fucking show Yellowstone. I'm so sick of this show. It just needs to go away and die. Get out of my life. Get out of Montana.
They had a shootout at Ruby's in Missoula, didn't they?
So I'll get to this. I was on the plane a couple months ago, and you know how the little TV thingies are on the back of the seats, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm looking around, and at least 8 different people in my view are watching freaking Yellowstone. And as my eyes bounce from screen to screen, because apparently I'm a creeper and that's what I do. As my eyes bounce around screen to screen, I'm watching these scenes go down in this show, and they are so absurd. They're so absurd. That's not how we live in Montana. I've never shot somebody. I've never been in a car chase where I ran people off the road. I've been in a car chase.
You have been in a car chase.
Anybody off the road. I have been in a car chase, but I've never run anybody off the road. The drama of it is so freaking stupid. It's not how we live. There's no Dutton Ranch where people are getting murdered all the freaking time. It's so stupid. And then I see the shot of the main house or whatever it is where Cosser hangs out. And when they shoot from the porch, they show the Bitterroots. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, all right, fine. The Bitterroots are pretty. That's great. And then they flip the camera around on a different shot. They're showing the house. And in the background is the freaking sapphires. And but right behind that, in the sapphires, behind that house, if you drew a straight freaking line, you would find my cabin. Quit showing the sapphires and my cabin on TV to everybody else. That place sucks. It's not beautiful. Don't come. On top of all of that, I read an article the other day, and this goes back to one of the little flockers. I think it was Sam talking about the banging on LA was getting a little old for him because he lives in LA. And I get that. I'm sorry, man. It's not the personal, but here's why. Here's the why. So this article goes into vivid detail. And not only that, they start out talking about catfishing Phillipsburg. Shut up. It doesn't exist. It's a crappy place to be. All right. And they're talking about the town and how the show has now made it so that all these Richie Riches from California are coming and buying up all the land and driving the land prices through the roof, which is 1,000,000% true. 1,000,000% true. The dude that lives below me bought his 7 acres 10 years ago for $24,000. He just had it appraised, and all he's done is he's put a modest house on it, has a septic dug that's not hooked up, a well dug that is not hooked up, still off grid, all that stuff, no power, and just appraised for $430,000.
Wow.
Right?
And you have to pay taxes on that.
Exactly. Driving Montanans out of freaking Montana, right? And it's all because of this catfishing show. And then the other day, Brittany and I are getting ready to leave on our work trip out to the coast. We've got the little camper, pulling it behind the truck. It's a Friday morning. It's 6 a.m. Hey, there'll be plenty of parking downtown. Like, we can go and get breakfast sandwiches at the Golden Egg. Let's do it. Cool. So we drive downtown. We get next to the Golden Egg, which is right next to the courthouse in Missoula. And it's a catfishing circus. It's a circus down there. There are white box trucks parked everywhere. Nowhere to park. People roaming around everywhere. It was just a freaking zoo at 6 a.m. on a Friday morning. So Brady gets out of the truck, goes to get some breakfast, comes back out. One of the dudes is standing there. She's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, well, it's a TV show. We're filming a TV show." And she looks at him and she's like Yellowstone? And he goes, "We're filming a TV show." Because he's a catfishing doucher from Hollywood. Like, he's too cool to talk to one of the locals, and we couldn't handle the idea they're filming Yellowstone in downtown catfishing Missoula. That show is the bane of my existence. Quit screwing with our state. Catfish you, Yellowstone. Do better.
I just thought it was even going to end with the different kind of shots of the mountains, because I have this problem too. I've been watching the show Supernatural.
Okay.
And a lot of the times they go to different parts of the country, and there's quite a few scenes where they're in Whitefish. And, it shows Whitefish. And it's funny because when they're in Whitefish, he goes to a corner store and it's like a really super rundown shack of a convenience store, which, I mean, there's
in Whitefish?
In Whitefish, yeah. And then he goes over to the newspaper stand to pick up the paper, and it's the Bozeman Daily Chronicle.
It's going to be the Daily Mistake. It's going to be the Daily Mistake. Come on, get your newspaper.
I would accept the Missoulian. That there, you would see a Missoulian paper still in Western Montana.
Maybe not many people in the Flathead subscribe to the Missoulian. It's all the Daily Interlude.
I know, but I've gone to the store and at least seen the Missoula paper at the store.
That's fair. Or the Great Falls Tribune.
Yeah, maybe. That one I could even see more so than the Bozeman paper, which is on almost the exact opposite side of the state. So, it's kind of in the middle, but
yeah, exactly. It's out where it's windy. Come on.
So that's my issue.
No, I get it.
They need to hire us to be like, look, if you're going to explain what this is in Montana, then it has to be right.
Right. And Whitefish, for those who don't know, is one of those towns that has been hit by the Richie Riches. And what was it, 10 years ago, the average median price of a home was $650,000. I have no idea what it is now, but if it's not closer to 2, I'd be stunned.
It's doubled here just in the last 5 years.
Hey, the Flathead Valley, the fastest growing micropolitan area in the entire country, whatever that means.
Well, my do better this week is for Colin Cowherd. And Adam.
Oh, no.
Adam, listen to this nonsense. And before I play this, a trigger warning for people who find things gross. This is really gross.
The Rams now are the most rated franchise in the NFL. They lose a coordinator every year. They just faced one of their former coaches in the Super Bowl, Zach Taylor. They are now the go-to franchise. You hire McVay's guys. McVay literally changed the preseason. No more playing starters. It's ridiculous. Now everybody that's good copies him. I've never seen anything like it. I don't even remember. Did they play in St. Louis? It's like it's been forgotten. That's how you run a franchise. And we always talk about America's team. But to be America's team, don't you have to win a lot when America's watching in the playoffs? The Packers don't, the Steelers don't, and the Cowboys don't. You know who does win for America and in America? The Rams. I am today declaring the Rams the new America's team. Yes, they win when America watches. They're the most rated franchise, the most duplicated franchise, the most copied franchise. Never in cap hell. They've changed the way you treat players, how you practice without pads. Players want to be here. They come to rehab their image and leave. And when they leave, they say things like, it's the greatest 2 years of my life. Cowboys, Packers, Steelers, you're never on TV in January. America's team. The Los Angeles Rams.
Colin Cowherd is on TV trying to get people to call the Los Angeles Rams America's team. The Los Angeles Rams aren't even the Los Angeles team, okay? Like, everybody from LA has a team that they root for that's other than the Rams. They can barely fill out their own stadium when the San Francisco 49ers from upstate are in town. And those fans sound louder in the Rams home stadium. You cannot call the LA Rams America's team. Colin Cowherd, do better.
That was one of the most disgusting catfishing things I've ever heard in my life. And I had heard it before you played it, but rehearing it lights my hair on fire. It's mainly because the greatness of Sean McVay and the way that he's affected the world since he became the LA Rams head coach has just been monumental. I can't imagine a world in which we don't take and chisel off Teddy Roosevelt's face from Mount Rushmore and chisel Sean McVay's face up there instead, for bringing back hair gel, for solving world peace in his spare time, and making the Israelis and the Palestinians whole and a united front. And Sean McVay, when he wakes up in the morning, graces us with his catfishing greatness. And just, if I went to play for him when I got done, I would say that was the greatest 2 years of my life. Catfish you, Colin. That's, God, that's so gross.
Instead of having a cross, just put a Rams logo up at the intersection of the cross points.
The Holy Trinity. The Holy Trinity. Stan Kroenke, Sean McVay, and Matt Stafford. The Holy Trinity.
It's so gross.
Disgusting. I hate having to taste vomit in my mouth like that.
Man, did you hear what a hard worker Sean McVay is? That he got married this past week, and 2 days later, he's back and coaching his team. Man, what an amazing guy.
What an amazing guy. I mean, a hard worker, just doesn't give a rip about his wife and just leaves her back at home when he has to go back and change the world with his greatness as being the head coach of the LA Rams. What a genius, and so funny and so amazing. I hope that the next 10 years of my life, I get to spend 18 hours a day with Sean McVay, just attached at the hip, so I can try to absorb the glow from the aura of greatness that exudes around him at all times.
Man, maybe we need to rename this next segment Better at Life Than Sean McVay, because then it truly, I mean, if you're saying that something is better at life than Sean McVay, it's really special.
Basically, you would take all of human existence and raise it to the next plane of existence that we're all striving for. Like, that's how good it would have to be.
That's how good. It would make it a high bar for the people that we nominate each and every week.
Oh, it was so bad.
Colin Cowherd, do better. Let's go on to Better at Life.
Do better. Good Lord. Yeah. I didn't get a good one in on that one. My Better at Life this week, Brandon, is for a young man named Riker. And not my nephew, Riker, although he's a badass, and I love my nephew. This is for a different Montana Riker, a little 4-year-old who lives up near Libby, more precisely Bull Lake, which is out in the boonies. If you've ever been
I've been to Bull Lake. That's where my brother had his wedding reception, his wedding and his wedding reception.
Exactly. So him and his family live out there. And young Riker, dressed in his blue onesie, picture a onesie, you got the footies and the whole nine, right?
Mm-hmm.
He got interested in something, who knows what. Hard telling, not knowing. Wandered off into the woods. Family couldn't find him. 2 days later, 2 days, he went off into the woods and played alone as a 4-year-old. That's how hard this young Montana boy is. He went out and played alone in the woods for 2 days on his own in a freaking onesie. Nothing else. He didn't get 10 items. He went out in a onesie. He had one item, right? 2 days. And they found him in the woods. And what did they have to say about young Riker? Was he traumatized? Did he barely make it? No. He was just a little hungry and a little cold. Temperatures down in the 40s at night. He just went and slept out like a freaking wolf out in the middle of the woods.
Wow.
Came back, and if you saw the picture of him, he's his big eyeballs. He's just like, why are we taking a picture right now? I just went for a hike. Like, just everybody freaking relax. Young Riker from Bull Lake area, Montana, better at life than Skip Bayless. What an amazing young human. It just shows how hard Montanans are, man.
4-year-old, 2 nights.
Yeah. Yeah, he's basically a Spartan.
Basically.
Yeah.
Well, my Better at Life this week, is basically a Spartan as well. Let's talk John Schneider. We heard the one clip from him before, but I saved the best one because, we've all seen the photo of John Schneider, right? Even when I say the photo of John Schneider.
Oh, we all know which one it is. Is there a belt involved?
There's a belt involved. There's no shirt involved. Yes, the photo of him standing shirtless in a locker. We finally get the story of how this went down, courtesy of former Falcons general manager Thomas Dimitroff asking about it at the end of their podcast.
So we went to get our picture taken, the day before the draft, or the day before the Super Bowl in New York. And like everybody was totally loose all week. We had a great week of practice. And EK, Eric Kennedy, our equipment guy, received the belt, from the big WWE belt and all that. And we were all dressing to go get our picture taken. And EK's like, yeah, the guys are, hey man, you need to do your Chris Farley for everybody or something, man, because the guys are like super tight today. And DQ's like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. The guys are pretty wound up before the game. And so they were dressing and so I had literally had my Seahawk polo and my khakis on and was gonna go in there with the belt. And he's like, we got to take your shirt off. I'm like, good point.
Good point.
One of the worst decisions I've ever made, man. I went in there, we started laughing, we started having a great time and everything. But then the players started pulling out their phones and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom's gonna see this. This is so embarrassing. I ended up calling John Elway after the game and was like, that was not after the game, dude. That was yesterday, and I was trying to lift the guy's spirits and all this kind of stuff. It was really embarrassing. And then 2 minutes after that, we had a fight on our team that never got out in public.
But that got out
later.
Yeah.
But the pictures were out. Yeah, that was great. The pictures were out of my belly and everything. It was great. Tracy didn't divorce me. It was great.
So there we go. We get the story behind the championship belt photo and the Better at Life. It's not going to Thomas for getting the story out of him. It's not for John for telling the story. My Better at Life is going to Eric Kennedy because how many amazing Seahawks moments it just behind the scenes is Eric
Yes.
Kennedy in on the Seahawks equipment manager. Dude's been there forever. He's obviously a hilarious guy and a cool guy because, gosh, he stopped one dude from going up into the stands to fight fans that were throwing stuff onto the field. Eric Kennedy, for being a part of another amazing Seahawks moment, better at life than Skip Bayless.
A raise is in order for DK. Yes, for sure. The only qualm I have with the telling of the story is, why did John feel the need to call Bucktooth John and let him know that he didn't do that after the game? What if he had? Who cares?
It would be cool.
Screw John Elway.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.